Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ottumwa City Council meeting. It's 5:30 p.m., so I'm going to call our meeting to order, and if everybody would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Here.
Councilmember Hull?
Here.
Councilmember Pope?
Here.
Councilmember Rowe?
Here.
Mayor Johnson?
Here. The next item is our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
Move the rec. Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
The next item is to approve tonight's city council agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
The next item is our report from our city administrator, Phil Rath.
All right, thank you, Honorable Mayor. I just wanted to highlight a couple of areas here with the city. First is in boards, committees, and commissions. Last month, the Human Rights Commission held a training session that was with representatives from the state Human Rights Division. There are going to be many more meetings and work to accomplish by this group to kind of identify what the purpose and direction is that they're going to be dealing with. We're looking at probably maybe even up to 6 months of regular meetings to kind of help formulate that. First official meeting will be next week, Monday. Another committee that we've talked about revitalizing things from law enforcement, fire, and streets. We'd like to get some meetings to start holding meetings, but we have vacancies. There are currently 3 out of the 6 members are filled. And that would not give us a quorum by technical terms. So we're looking for members, people who are interested. There's a 1-year term, a 2-year term, and a 3-year term that are all available. So if anyone is interested, applications are available on the website, or people can call City Hall to either have an application mailed to them or to get more information about that particular board. And we do have a couple of vacancies in other committees and boards as well. So if anyone is interested, the application is universal. Fill that out, and you can be considered for one of our boards, committees, or commissions. Personnel. Last month, we welcomed a few new staff members to the ranks. Newest employees are Tiffany Young, who's a gatekeeper at the recycling center. Rachel Thompson is a new firefighter. And Jack Carter is maintenance tech for water pollution control facility. So Rachel is actually now our second female firefighter. I'm also pleased to announce that beginning next week, Wasim Nasir will be serving as the finance director for the city of Ottumwa. We still have a number of other positions open within the city. So if you're interested, please visit the website or contact Human Resources for more information about what is available or how to apply if you're interested. And then finally, one of the other topics of interest in the community has been talking about ATVs, UTVs, golf carts. So city staff has been researching the topic, looking at other communities to see how they're handling it. Recently there was some change in the state law. Didn't mean that the city has to allow for these, but if there's some interest, it has piqued interest to potentially allow for the use of ATVs, UTVs, or golf carts on city streets. We're looking at pros and cons of that, and I would plan that later this month we'd be looking at having a work session to talk about the potential for draft language in regards to that and see if there was any need for proposed revision to our current code, which at the moment prohibits the use of those vehicles in most situations. This report will also be the written format, and I think will be attached to the council packet going forward. So that's, if you wanted to look back, you can have those comments there too. All right, that is all I had tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is to see if we have individuals in the audience tonight who want to speak on any of the items on tonight's agenda. And we do have 4 individuals that have indicated they would like to speak. So when we get to those places in the agenda, I will ask you to come up and give your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes to state what you'd like to say. So we do have those. If anybody else wants to fill one out and you haven't filled one out yet, please do so right away. But we do have 4 individuals that want to speak tonight, so we will do that.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing to discuss the status of funded activities for the Ottumwa Blessing Soup Kitchen Pandemic Response Program.
I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing, and I think Brad Grafe from Regional Planning is going to speak on this tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's been a minute since I've clogged your agenda, so I thought I'd do it right. So we've got 3 public hearings tonight for your status of funded activities as part of your citizen participation policy for the CDBGs that you've got for the COVID grants. So we'll just go ahead and get started with the Blessing Soup Kitchen. Maybe, there we go. So the CARES Act provided an additional CDBG program allocation for several different programs. And the city of Ottumwa took advantage of 3 of them. The first one here is this food bank food program assistance for the Blessing Soup Kitchen. We applied for $100,000 in May of 2022 and received $100,000 to help with the Blessing Soup Kitchen. The way we qualified for the funding for that was assisting low to moderate income people, which is a HUD national objective. The city's LMI is 55.3, and we just had to hit that 51% threshold. The original scope of that project, there we go. The original scope of that project was to basically replace most of their home style residential grade equipment with commercial grade kitchen equipment, and then some little supplies, years worth of packaging so that they could take the things to go. You can see there's a big variety of stuff that they're looking at purchasing. Here's kind of some of the setup that they've got. I don't know how many of you folks have ever been over to Blessings or to Top Hat, but their basement of Top Hat is actually where they do all the food prep. And then they do the serving and a lot of storage up there in that little building behind Top Hat. So we're going to try to get them, like I said, all that stuff here this month. We haven't actually drawn anything on this. We've been working with IEDA on the procurement process. It's a little bit convoluted, turns out, but the hope is that we can help Blessings order this stuff this month, get it purchased, installed, or delivered and installed by December. Again, we haven't drawn any funds. We haven't drawn for activity or administration. Contract end date for all 3 of these grants is May 31st, 2023.
And this is one-time funding to buy all this commercial equipment for Blessings, correct?
Yep, this is all pandemic response related stuff. And again, this is Chris's project, but from what I've heard, they about doubled their foot traffic in during that pandemic cycle, and it's still higher than it was pre-pandemic.
Does council have any questions for Brad? Does anyone in the audience have any questions they want to ask since this is a public hearing?
I would like to ask, Brad, you receiving any outside funding from anybody else in the community?
Not on this project, no. No.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions, I'd ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing to discuss the status of funded activities for the Ottumwa ISU Building Upper Story Housing Project.
I'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and I believe, Brad, you're going to take this one as well.
I'm just going to power right through it. So the second grant that we applied for and received from IEDA was for upper story housing conversion program. That grant had a $500,000 maximum grant award. We did apply for $500,000 and received $500,000. Again, the benefit here was that low to moderate income. The way that we qualify for that is that all the units for the first 3 years after they're built have to be rented to a LMI tenant for the first 3 years. Again, that's not your Section 8 type housing. That's stuff for like your new teachers, young professionals, folks like that would all qualify straight out of college for the LMI benefit. So again, kind of give you a tiny little picture of what that building looks like. We applied again for this grant in May of 2022 and received the $500,000 to convert the vacant upper story of that building to 3 apartments. The original scope of work is not changed. We're going to put 2 one-bedroom units in the back and 1 two-bedroom unit in the front. Total estimated cost of the project at the time of application was $604,000. The city was going to use $15,000 of its downtown revite program funds, and then the owner was going to cover the rest, which was $89,000. The property owner is RG Property, who owns RG Construction. They were actually pre-approved by IEDA to be both the developer and the general contractor, since they are an affiliated company. So you guys had a development agreement with those folks in August, right after we got the environmental clearance, and then they got right to work. They haven't done a whole lot that you can really see. It was gutted mostly earlier in the year, but they have done a brand new electrical service to the building, which it hasn't had electric in there for probably 4 or 5 years now, at least none that worked. So as of the September pay application, I was hoping to get one today, but didn't. RG's only billed 5% of the project cost, and again, all of that is electrical. They have done a little bit more component ordering for lead times, like those front windows are 20 some weeks off. So I'm expecting that we'll get a bill for that here shortly. This project is expected to be complete in April of 2023. The architect hasn't billed for any of their services yet. We've billed about 25% of our contract. And there's been some other fees that you guys have incurred, like radon testing, document recording, public notices, things like that. Again, your contract end date is May 31st of 2023, and that gives you a little look at what those apartments are going to be. Really nice one up front, kind of cramped in the back, but good overall.
Does council have any questions for Brad?
Brad, what do you, I don't know if anybody has actually put pen to paper on this yet, but do you have any anticipated increase of taxable valuation of this building after this project's complete?
Oh, I probably did somewhere, but not tonight. I could find that out for you.
I'm guessing it's probably more than $15,000 though.
Significantly, yeah.
Okay. So just a small investment by the city that's going to pay off very quickly. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, it'll return its investment very quick.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions for Brad? Does anyone in the audience have any questions they'd like to ask? Keith, do you want to come up to the podium and state your name and address?
Keith Cavanis, 2851 Oak Meadow Drive here in Ottumwa. I'm just wondering if we have, it's hard for me to see and hear back there, do we have matching funds that the city is going to contribute to this project? And if so, how much?
It was the $15,000, wasn't it, that was on the screen?
15,000 for the total project? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Brad? If not, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing to discuss the status of funded activities for the Ottumwa North Market Street Facade Improvements Project.
I'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and I think, Brad, you're going to present on this one as well.
That's right. Let's get her done. So the third program that we had was commercial facade rehab, which at the time was eligible for up to a maximum of $50,000 per facade. A few weeks after we applied, they actually increased that to $100,000. So I'm a little bitter about that. But in February of 22, we applied for this. Again, at the time, it was $50,000 per facade. We had 5 facades that were interested and eligible. That basically it was a tidy project that we could get done in the short time frame that we had to do it. Most normal facade programs take us from development through getting funded through construction. Usually takes us somewhere between 3 and 4 years. We only have a year and a half to do this, so we had to make it a nice, short, small project. So we had 105, 107 North Market, which had 2 fronts and a side facade. And then 116 North Market actually has a 114 North Market and a 118 North Market address, so they let us call that 2 facades. So basically 150,000 for the first, 100,000 for the other gets us our 250. So the national objective that we had to qualify for that one was preventing or eliminate slums or blight, which you could pretty obviously see that those were slum and blighted conditions. We did a quick inventory survey, passed a resolution in December, designating that slum and blight area. And then again, to be eligible for the funding, they had to be either in fair or poor condition. And all 3 of those buildings or properties were designated as fair condition. Original scope of work was to rehab 5 facades on the 3 buildings. Again, 2 or 4 fronts and a side. The major work item included obviously masonry repair. We got rid of that slip cover there and found some pretty bad conditions up here. This was pulling away pretty substantially from the building and probably would have fallen down in a few years if we hadn't addressed it. Upper level window repair on the front of this one. Painting, storefront repair and replacement, especially for that one. The city applied for, again, were awarded $250,000 in the CV funds. The estimated cost at the time was $446,000. That was based on some grants that we'd done in Oskaloosa and Sigourney. The estimated funds to match the grant award were using the city's downtown revitalization program funds, which are programmed for this specific activity and in your budget. And then the property owners are going to kick in $101,000 of their own. Although the overall scope has not changed, the bid cost was significantly lower than our original estimates. We received 2 bids for this project, one from Christner, one from RG. Christner won at a total of $277,777. Again, pandemic pricing, we had kind of inflated our estimate at the beginning, and they came in and just blew that away. So the overall grant project currently sits at $347,102, which is down from $446. That includes construction contingency, which you're going to approve some change orders tonight, grant administration costs, architectural fees, and other things like asbestos, easement recording, public notices. Construction began in August on this one also, and both buildings are about 25% complete by scheduled cost. The project is expected to be mostly done by Thanksgiving, but again, windows are a 20-week item, and they ordered those last month, so they're expecting to come in January and then finish it off right there. So the architects build about 80% of their amount. We build about 50% of ours. Contract ends May 31st, 2023, and I think that's it.
Does council have any questions for Brad on this project?
I will ask the same question for those two buildings. What do you think the anticipated increase in taxable valuation will be?
I would expect it to be more on the 105, 107 side because it's going to open up that second floor to be redeveloped, which it couldn't be now. I know Claudia wants to put 2 apartments at least up there, which again is feet in your downtown and revenue in your pocket.
So again, the $81,700 is a good investment on the city's behalf.
I would say so,
Good, thank you.
based on what we've seen over the last 10 years down here.
Any other questions from council for Brad? Anyone in the audience like to ask any questions about this project? If not, before we close the public hearing, I would just like to take this opportunity to publicly thank Zach Simonson, our Community Development Director, and his team, and Area 15 Regional Planning Commission. They've worked very hard over the last several years, and Ottumwa's been extremely fortunate to get a lot of these upper story housing grants that has greatly enhanced and improved our downtown area. And it's because of their hard work and commitment that Ottumwa's been successful with getting several $100,000 worth of grant funding to do these upper story housing units. So kudos to both your agencies, and thank you for all your hard work. Would anybody like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brad.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing to adopt Amendment Number 2 to our Ottumwa 2040 Comprehensive Plan and providing Year 2 plan updates.
I'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and Zach Simonson, I believe, is going to take this item.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. The Plan and Zoning Commission did recommend that the council consider Amendment 2 to the 2040 Comprehensive Plan. They wanted to kind of take the advice we had from the consultants when we adopted the plan, which was to make sure that the plan was treated as kind of a living document and that it didn't collect dust on the shelf, that it was constantly being referred back to. And so they thought that at the 2-year point, just making some small updates to provide a status update and to revisit the goal setting was a good way of making sure we did that. The amendment includes about 9 items. A lot of these items are are afterwards for several of the chapters. The first item is a forward from the mayor providing an introduction to the updates. The second amendment is a small afterword to Chapter 2, which would provide updated 2020 census data. The plan was approved in 2020, but right a few months or so before, I guess several months before the 2020 census data was actually released. So we had to use the 2018 ACS. And so we were able to just put some of those new numbers in there to kind of show how those changes had sort of panned out. And that did line up pretty well with population estimates and some of the other data that we did use throughout the plan. Next is a small afterword for Chapter 5, which is the Parks and Recreation chapter. It sort of details several of different things going on in the area of Parks and Recreation, including the ongoing effort with the master plan for Greater Ottumwa Park, multi-purpose trail projects on Milner Street, and several other things. Chapter 6 is probably the largest update because it's to the housing chapter, which was really impacted by completing the 2022 housing plan earlier this year. And so that chapter does outline a lot of the findings in the plan and also specifically the recommendations. And then it takes some time to talk about where we've gotten with those recommendations already this year, some of the efforts that have been made to reach the goals outlined in that plan. Next is a update to the chapter on economic development. That does show some of the activity that's happened since the COVID-19 recovery. At this point, unemployment is lower than it was before the pandemic, but as a result, we do have a lot of issues around employers struggling to fill vacancies. It also acknowledges the conditions of inflation that affect residents, as well as a lot of the work of the government in terms of construction costs, material costs, and other things. It does talk about some of the bright spots, including Superior Machine and Max Swim Spas, which announced in 2021 their intent to relocate to Ottumwa and produce over 200 new jobs over that period where they're going to be relocating. And it also talks a little bit about the commitment that we made at the last meeting to work with retail strategies to do some work around retail recruitment. Chapter 9, Chapter 9 is the future land use plan, and there is an updated future land use map that reflects some of the rezonings that were done over the last few years, including the rezoning for the Explosion gym on Romer. It also brings the Bonita property into alignment with the zoning that was at the time the plan was adopted, and is also in line with the development that's happening there. Then there's also an afterword for Chapter 10, which is transit. It does outline some of the changes, including the city transferring operation of transit to 1015 transit, the completion of the streetscape in October of 2022, the change in ownership of the depot, and several other things. And then finally, there is another brief afterword to Chapter 13, which refers folks back to the city website where in the weeks coming up, they'll be able to find the public dashboard for Invisio, which is going to be a tool that we're going to use to track progress on the plan itself. Each of the goals outlined in our implementation section will be assigned to members of staff who will regularly report their progress on those items. And as we are able to check off accomplishments, we'll be able to see the percentage completion of the plan go up. So that's everything that's included in the updates. They're not major, but they are a good opportunity to revisit where we are with making progress on the plan, and a good opportunity to kind of renew everybody's interest in continuing to complete the goals.
Does council have any questions for Zach?
The Invisio website, you said it'd be a couple weeks before it's up and running.
Yep.
Are we going to make an announcement on the city's website once that's up and running so the citizens can keep track?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be sharing it on Facebook. We'll be trying to make a big deal out of it because it'll be a good tool for folks to refer to. And I think every quarter or every 2 months or so when we have the updates, it'll be a good time to also remind folks that it's there.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Any other questions from council? If not, does anyone in the audience want to address this item since it's a public hearing? If not, I'd go ahead and ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 239, 2022, adopting amendment number 2 to our Ottumwa 2040 comprehensive plan and providing year 2 plan updates. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 239, 2022.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
This is the time, place, and date set for a public hearing on ordinance number 3210, 2022, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Ottumwa, Iowa by conditionally rezoning property generally located at 1235 Hutchinson Avenue in the city of Ottumwa and directing the zoning administrator to note the ordinance number and date of this change on the official zoning map.
I'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and I believe Zach's going to present on this.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The owners of the property at 1235 Hutchison have applied for voluntary annexation, and that request was received and filed at a previous council meeting where we set a few dates. One of those is that the annexation request will be considered for a vote at a public hearing on November 1st. This ordinance would also have its third consideration if it were to continue through the process on the November 1st as well. Ordinance number 3210 would rezone the property at the time that it's annexed. Undeveloped property is annexed automatically as AG Urban Reserve, and this would rezone it to C1 Neighborhood Commercial. That rezoning would first of all permit the construction and operation of a Dollar General retail store, which is the purpose of the request for the annexation and the rezoning. And it would also be in conformance with the future land use plan, which identifies this property as suitable for neighborhood mixed-use development. The Plan and Zoning Commission did review this item at its September 12th meeting and recommended by a vote of 5-4 that the rezoning be approved with 2 conditions. The first condition was that the property be developed within 2 years. If the development does not occur, the zoning would require additional consideration by Plan and Zoning and Council to be renewed at a later date. It also has a condition that liquor sales and pawn shop uses not be permitted. Those uses are permitted in the C1 zone typically, but they would not be permitted as this ordinance would attach those further conditions to use. The future land use plan, as I said, does designate this property as suitable for the neighborhood commercial type use. The C1 classification is consistent with that. And staff finds that the development of a retail store is not incompatible with the surrounding neighborhood. While the predominant uses of the surrounding neighborhood relate more to medical services than commercial retail, they have similar characteristics, including similar operating hours. They maintain large parking lots. Some of those are illuminated parking lots, and they generate traffic. Pennsylvania is a minor arterial, which I noted was the same classification as Quincy Avenue, while Hutchison at the south section here is designated a collector, which is the same designation as Wildwood Drive, and south of US 34 and also Albia Road west of Quincy. Couple other things just to note, the surrounding development within a quarter mile, there's over 6 acres of surface parking lots, which is actually a little less than what's within a quarter mile of the Quincy Dollar General and is much more than what's within a quarter mile of the East Main Dollar General. And then from an economic development perspective, we used industry data supplied by Retail Strategies, and it shows that the average Dollar General store would bring in an estimated $1.7 million in annual sales, which does translate to roughly $17,000 in local option sales tax at 1%. Also, the average Dollar General store employs 12 staff, and the 2 existing Dollar General stores pay between them $11,000 and $14,000 a year in property tax. So there is certainly some economic development and revenue benefits from development along the bypass there. So,
Does council have any questions for Zach?
Hey, Zach, can you give those numbers again for me?
yeah. So let me pull that piece of paper back. So again, this is from the industry data is what we received from Retail Strategies. Dollar General average store is 1.7 million in annual sales, 1% of which would be 17,000. Although we don't collect local option sales tax on food, and they do sell food among what they sell, so it'd be a little less than that. And then also the average Dollar General store employs 12 staff. And then I did also look at the property taxes paid by the 2 existing Dollar General stores, and East Main pays roughly $11,000 a year, and Quincy roughly $14,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? We have 2 individuals in the audience that would like to speak, so I'll go ahead and ask Sean Berry to come up first and state your name and your address. And then we also have Laura Berry that'll follow after Sean.
Hello, Sean Berry, 1120 East Pennsylvania Avenue. Forgive me, it's my first time attending one of these and also speaking. Regarding that zoning change, we have talked to a number of our neighbors and ourselves that are slightly concerned with the zoning change, specifically for the proposed Dollar General, knowing that the Dollar Generals around town somewhat are in disrepair. We also have spoke to our realtor, and that they have said it's a little more undesirable to have that around your residential area. That being said, we also have quite a lot of residential in that area. That would be a very different change on that side anyway, and up and down those 2 streets. Again, we're just voicing our concerns on that, and specifically just noting that the other two stores in town do not make us comfortable with believing that this is going to stay as a desirable area once that happens. So again, thank you for your time and listening to us, and thank you for what you guys do.
Thank you very much. Laura Berry.
Hi, my name is Laura Berry. Sean's my husband. I also reside at 1120 East Pennsylvania. My concerns are similar to his in that even though there is some medical use areas in the dentist's office and the hospital, it is a very quiet area, especially after 5 o'clock, and it's very nice and private. Our concern is if we have a retail space there, that it doesn't match up with the type of residences that are currently there. There would be foot traffic and driving traffic after hours, after dark. That's kind of a concern for us for safety reasons. We would be concerned about what our appraised value of our own home would be. We just bought there 2 years ago, and I'm afraid that our property value would go down. Also a concern of where the city line would be moved to and what that would entail, if that would change our property taxes at all. Yeah, I don't necessarily want to bag on Dollar General, but it's just, I don't think it would be a good fit for that area as it stands right now. And I know, like Sean had said, that we've talked to our neighbors and they have some similar concerns. We tried to knock on some doors to get some more traffic to come in to oppose this, but people work during the day. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
He wants to speak on this too.
Okay, we also have Villain Wilson. Did I pronounce that right?
No, but that's all right. My name is Vicki Wilson, V-I-K-I.
Okay.
And I am speaking in opposition to rezoning on Hutchinson Avenue because, like they said, we're a peaceful neighborhood. I live about a quarter of a mile from there. Other rezoning opportunities for much less traffic and type of business have been denied in the past on 100th and other neighborhoods because that area splits into 4 different names: 100th Avenue, Hutchinson, Bladensburg, and Pennsylvania. And I'm just in agreement with these guys. It's going to change the whole peacefulness in our neighborhood because we know who goes to Dollar Generals on the average. And we would like to see something a little bit nicer if we had the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the Dollar General agenda item? Zach, do you have anything you want to state?
Just a clarification about one of the comments, which was how it would affect the city limit in relation to any other property. For example, 1120 East Pennsylvania is not currently in the city limits. This annexation consideration, which is also not what's being voted on tonight. What you're voting on tonight is just whether, if the property is annexed, it should be rezoned. But the annexation does not include anything other than the property, the easement in front of it, and the half of East Pennsylvania that runs the width of the property, and the half of Hutchinson that runs the width of the property. So it does not include annexing anyone else in this action.
Thank you for that clarification. And then Mickey Hucks, Senior, did you want to speak on this item? It doesn't say on the paper what item you wanted to speak on, but this is the last public hearing. So is this the one that you wanted to speak on? Did you want to speak on another one of the public hearings we've already had? No, we haven't had it yet. Well, this is the last public hearing that we're having tonight. Because it says you wanted to speak on the public hearing. What did you want to speak on? Okay, we'll be getting to that in just a minute. Thank you. Does anybody on council have any other questions for Zach before we move on?
No questions, just a comment. Again, I would advise council not to make decisions based on what type of clientele any retail business may or may not bring to an area. That could be seen as discriminatory behavior.
If there's no other comments, I'd ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Ordinance number 3210, 2022, amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Ottumwa, Iowa by conditionally rezoning property generally located at 1235 Hutchinson Avenue in the city of Ottumwa and directing the zoning administrator to note the ordinance number and date of this change on the official zoning map. Recommendation passed the first consideration of ordinance number 3210, 2022.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Ordinance number 3202, 2022, an ordinance amending Appendix D electricity franchise with Interstate Power and Light Company for the purpose of imposing a franchise fee. Recommendation passed second consideration of ordinance number 3202, 2022.
Okay, I believe, Phil, you're going to take this.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Mayor. On July 19th of this year, the City Council held a public hearing regarding franchise fee for the for the electric utility. That met the requirement for the city to hold that public hearing. So we're, as Mayor mentioned, past the public hearing state. We can still take comments on this, but it's subject to the public commentary period there. Attached is the ordinance with the intent to impose a 3% franchise fee upon the electric utility as part of the agreement with Interstate Power and Light Company. The fee would replace the current 1%, which is already charged for local option sales tax. So instead of that 1% that people are already paying, this would have a 3% or a 2% increase over what's currently on the bill. Revenue received from this fee would be used to supplement the general fund as outlined in the revenue purpose statement, which was adopted by resolution number 174-2022. The first reading passed 3-1 and is now moved to the second reading.
Does council have any questions for Phil? We do have 3 individuals that would like to speak, and since this isn't a public hearing, you will be able to come up and state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to state your position. So I guess I'll start with Mr. Hux. Okay. We can go to Katie Howard.
Good evening. Last time I was here, which was in July when you tabled this item, I outlined my background, which includes nearly 30 years in county government for different counties. I won't go into that again, except to say that I was responsible for several years for operating budgets which were in excess of $1 million. So I have some familiarity with the challenges of delivering public services when you have a strapped budget. We had a number of incidences. I won't go into all that again. I don't want to waste your time or mine tonight. we're currently in an environment of high inflation, an economy with climbing interest rates and high housing prices. We all know what's happened with gas and groceries. It's pretty untenable. You have, I know my counterpart here tonight is going to talk to you about the poverty rate here in Ottumwa. I think you're all very familiar with that. But suffice it to say that people are falling behind on their payments. They're making do without. And by adding another tax or another fee or whatever you want to call it, you are strapping those people even further. I applaud your efforts with the soup kitchen. I think that's a great thing. I'm glad to see it. That being said, I recognize that you have a job to do and apparently you don't have enough money to do it. I have wondered if the city council has attempted to review the functions that you're currently providing. I can tell you that we went through this exercise in one of the counties that I worked for, and we looked at every mandated function that was set in code that the county did. And then we looked at what employees were actually doing. And we found a great level of disparity, and we attributed it after some investigation to the fact that the county had accepted many, many grants over the years. And as you all know, the grant funds come with stipulations and requirements and, you know, various things that need to be met. And so what had happened was over the years, those county employees were working to meet those grant requirements. And a good portion of our budget in funding county employee salaries was going toward that instead of toward mandated services. So I'm wondering if you've looked at this. I also wondered if you were looking at your core mission functions compared to what employees have. You know, programs have a way of spawning babies, and you have more and more programs that come to light, and they might be a great idea at the time, but they tend to have a life of their own and they get repeated. And without a zero-based budget approach, you're not looking at those priorities again. I'm glad to see you have a comprehensive plan amendment. It gives people a benchmark to measure your progress and how you're doing against those goals.
Ma'am, your 3 minutes is up. Do you have some closing statement you want to make real quick?
Just that there are 947 cities in Iowa. 843 of them do not have franchise fees. I'm wondering how they're managing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Keith Cavanis.
Evening, Mayor, Council. Nice to address you again. Little follow-up on the previous meeting we had. I want you to know that Ottumwa has just been superseded by Appanoose County. We're now the poorest county in the 99 counties in the state of Iowa. That's a nice record to hold if you're not poor, but if you are, it is bad. I want you to know that if you go ahead and pass this resolution, that the proceeds most generally will go to the general fund, which in my opinion at least is not very well guarded. $1.6 million estimated income on the 3% more likely will be increased dramatically as utility rates are going up dramatically. I don't like to say this, but I'm going to ask you, what is your next target to raise funds for the city after you've gone through these funds? How long will it take your new finance director to get on board and get up to speed and be able to provide good information to the council? What will the poorest do to pay their increases in taxes? I do not know how to answer that question. Maybe you do. I believe this is directed at the administrator. I believe he could and may leave you in this mess, 25-year contract, as most administrators last 4 to 5 years in any given position, and then they move on. That means you'll be holding the bag when the deal is done. Remember, Ottumwa is more than just downtown. We have the south side, the east end, and the west end, all paying equal taxes. I think we're really going overboard to build the downtown Ottumwa area without giving any consideration to the south side or either one of the other locations, east or west. Not many people are being drawn to downtown. Maybe people want to live downtown, but not as merchant to provide purchases from merchants. Online shopping is growing every day, and the brick and mortar program is dying along with the taxes on those buildings. I would hope that you would give reconsideration to not passing this 3% fee. I believe we're talking about the electric bill now, but the gas will be coming up. And I can tell you that the price of gasoline fuel is already on its way up right now. If you noticed coming to work, it's up about 15 cents higher than it was yesterday. And according to the news, we're going to see it skyrocket. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Mr. Hux?
My name is Mickey Huck Sr. I live at 615 West Finley Avenue here in Ottumwa. And I'm here to also have a comment about the franchise fee. I know I was here for the first meeting that you had and that it got tabled, but I'm under sickness. I could not be here for the next one when you voted 3-1. Now, I want to mention that I am 79 years old, senior citizen. I've lived here all my life, except for the 6 years I served in the military. And in the military, I'll give you a quick update. They teach us discipline, honor, respect, and I am here to respect the mayor and you as council members. But I think that you have missed the boat a little bit concerning this franchise fee because of the amount of senior citizens that we have in this city, because of the economy that's already been touched upon, the price of everything that has gone up, and you are affected by that also. And when you reach my age, and I'm sure some of you will, I won't be here in 25 years, but this will affect my children who are at middle age and my grandchildren and maybe even a grandchild. So if we pass this item, it's going to affect the senior citizens in this community. And I'm very surprised. Citizens, where are you? You should be here voicing your opinion. A few years back, we had a meeting with Alliant at the high school, and the place was packed, and you got everybody's opinion. But it seems like with live stream, it's easier to stay home. I understand that. But citizens, you need to be here at the council meetings, stress your opinions. And I will end this by saying that every night in my prayers, I thank God for giving me another day. And every morning when I wake up, I thank him for giving me one more day. We never know how many days we have left. And in my evening prayers, I pray for my family, my church family. I pray for the police department. I pray for the fire department, first responders, doctors, nurses, because they are looking out for us. And I would appreciate you as council members, take that one step further. Look out for the citizens of this community. Let's reconsider what you're doing with this 3%, which is going to jump. You know that it will. And think of your citizens, senior citizens, and the ones that are going to follow. Thank you.
Thank you. We ready for the roll?
Someone needs to
Make the recommendation, okay. Is there a motion to approve the recommendation as stated? to pass the second consideration.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
No.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Ordinance number 3209, 2022, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 2888, 2000, and granting to Mid-American Energy Company, its successors and assigns the right and non-exclusive franchise to acquire, construct, erect, maintain, and operate in the city of Ottumwa, Iowa, a natural gas system, and to furnish and sell natural gas to the city and its inhabitants, and authorizing the city to collect franchise fees for a period of 25 years. Recommendation passed the second consideration of ordinance number 3209, 2022.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second. Phil, I believe you're going to take this.
So similar to the last one, we have held a public hearing. This one was held on September 20th. This was at the last regular meeting of the council, and that was regarding the franchise fee for the gas utility. Attached is the ordinance. Again, this is looking at a request for a 3% franchise fee. It would replace 1% currently paid for the local option sales tax, and is only applied to, similar to the electric, only applied to those entities that are within the city limits. Revenue received from the fee would be used to supplement the general fund, and that has been outlined in the revenue purpose statement, which was adopted by Resolution 176, 2022. First reading for this also passed 3-1 and has been moved to tonight for the second reading.
Does council have any questions for Phil? Do the three individuals that spoke on the first one want to speak again on this one? Please. Okay. Katie Howard.
Thank you again. I just would like to point out that the citizens of Ottumwa, the residents of Ottumwa, elected you to your positions. And although the city council and the city government is a separate legal entity, it should not be separate from its citizens. City council is an extension of and a reflection of your citizenry. And if you pass this, which I think you will, you are leaving 40% of your citizenry behind. And that's a caution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Keith Cavanis.
Keith Cavanis, 2851 Oak Meadow Drive. Again, I encourage you to not pass this resolution. We need to figure out where our budget's at. We need to get some direction from the new financial director. And we need to start thinking about how we can cut costs and stop spending money instead of just keep piling it on. One of the questions that I had, just a brief, and I have no answers, but one of the questions I have, does anybody know how many automobiles or vehicles the city owns? If you do, you can multiply it down by at least $30,000. And maybe there's justification for a high percentage of those, and maybe there's not. But I think things like that need to be reviewed. The council needs to call the question and sit down in a work session and ask questions about what could we cut costs on? What do we not have to spend to help the citizenry to hold the tax line down? Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Mr. Hux.
Mickey Huck Sr. again, 615 West Finley Avenue here in Ottumwa. I would reduce this to one short statement, council members and Mr. Mayor, City Administrator. Please reconsider do not do this. Please, do not do this.
Thank you. Kara, did you have a comment you want to make?
First and foremost, I want to thank the three of you for coming and speaking up. I said this before, and Mr. Hux, I'm sorry, just said this too. I do appreciate that the citizens are coming, and would love to see more citizens here too. The other thing too, as Mr. Cavanis pointed out too, we go back and forth with Appanoose County as the poorest county in the state of Iowa. Wapello County is also the highest for child abuse and neglect risk factors. So a couple things I do want to point out. We started this at 5% in our public meeting that happened. And because of, I think I asked the city administrator point blank, is there a way to the people at poverty line or below, as senior citizens, is there a way to exclude them or to figure out how to work with them to remove this tax too? That wasn't a possibility. We could relieve the tax for the businesses, but of course, there wasn't the possibility for some of those citizens that fall under those lines. So the next conversation was, didn't feel comfortable with 5%, honest. And I don't think anyone up here thinks this is an easy decision. And we hear your points. We understand your points too. But we did come down from 5%. Not that it makes it any better. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying these conversations that you're talking about, we asked, tried to figure out a way, or I should say I asked these questions. I don't want to talk for the rest of the council. I asked these questions. I'm a social worker by my day job. The other thing though I do want to say too is that to break cycles of poverty, to break cycles of abuse, to break cycles of neglect, you do have to improve the community that you're living in too. And some of those things, improving our parks, having safer parks. I was playing at a park the other day. There was a needle in the park. I don't want my daughter running around barefoot and getting a needle in her foot, so we got that cleaned up. We have to have a police force. We have to have our streets cleaned and those kind of things too. We have to have those things to work forward, to work to break those cycles of abuse, poverty, neglect, all those things too. We have to have a strong community. That's that's the root at how we break our cycles and we move our community forward. So I'm not saying that, I just want you to all to understand that we did have these conversations too. We did, and again, I echo what Mr. Huck said, is that I would continue to urge the citizens to show up, especially to those work sessions. We're going to have budget sessions starting here in the next few months. And again, I would urge you to all come to those so you can understand, you can ask your questions also. Thank you.
Does council have any other comments they'd like to make? The only other comment I guess I would like to make is we had far more people as far as citizenry voice objections to the pit bull. We had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that sent emails, came to our public hearings. We have virtually had very little resistance from the general population about this franchise fee. I guess I would like to think that the city's done a good enough job informing the public about why it's needed. And I think people do not want to see our level of services be cut back, which could absolutely happen if these franchise fees are not approved, because we do not have the money to hire needed staff. We don't have money to give pay increases to our staff, and we continue to lose staff to private industry because they're paying much better. We have over 20 vacant positions right now that we can't hire people because of our wages and our benefit package that we offer as city employees. So that all kind of enters into this whole thing. And I know nobody up here wants to see this franchise fee have to be implemented, but the alternative, nobody wants that either. And as Councilman Galloway said, they could have went 5%, and they tried to be cognizant of the fact that we do have a lot of low-income individuals that live in Wapello County, and that's why they felt like if they were going to do this, they didn't want to go any higher than 3%. If there's a big outcry from the citizenry about these franchise fees, we sure haven't heard it. And I don't know why, but I'm just telling you, we haven't heard a lot of opposition from the general public. I think they understand why it's needed, and they know it needs to happen. So I guess that's my comments that I want to make. Is anybody have any other comments they want to make?
Yeah, I guess I will. And I think that this is probably going to be directed on some of the comments that we've had over the last probably 2 meetings regarding this. We know that we're in a time of inflation, and I don't think anybody up here is losing sight of that fact. We know that we have a high wealth disparity rate in this county. I don't think anybody up here has lost sight of that. But looking at costs, just straight up costs here, cities, counties, states are not immune to price increases. As inflation goes up, prices go up for gasoline, for all of our public service. And this isn't about threats. We've had that thrown at us a lot over the past, we're making threats. It's not about threats. It's reality. It's the economy. Cities have to pay for gasoline also. Cities have to pay for motor oil also. Cities have to pay wages also. And cities and counties and states, I should have said that every single one of those, when employees, much to what the mayor said, when employees start demanding higher wages, cities, counties, and states are not immune to that. I mean, I'll take this away from the city. I know of several county employees that have left over the last year or two to go to private entities for the exact same reason. They were able to get higher wages. So it isn't just the city of Ottumwa that is having to deal with this. Costs are going up. We are not immune to that. And to make the implication that the city of Ottumwa or Wapello County or the state of Iowa even is misusing funds, then, I would say for the last 6 years that I can think of, we've had from January, actually late December to March, every year, virtually every single week, budget meetings that are open session meetings that people can come to and discuss these issues, but we don't see those people, much to the point of what the mayor was just talking about. So I think it's a little bit unfair for people to say that we're not doing our job, we're not doing due diligence for budgeting. That's not the case. And if it were the case, we would see those folks at the budget meeting. We are doing our job. We had a presentation by Brad Grief just a little while ago, and the continuous question that we have been asking over the last 2 years as we've invested money in the city of Ottumwa has been, is there a return on the investment so we can make sure we're putting the city's dollars to the best use? And so far, I would say over the last couple of years, that has been the case. Most every time that we have invested money, not just downtown, Hobby Lobby is a prime example. We did a tax incentive out there, but it had to be put into stuff that we could tax on. And we've seen positive return on that. The downtown investment, we've seen positive return on that. We have invested in the other areas of town. So again, to make the implication that the city is just out burning money is incorrect. And you talk about the city council making threats, making statements that are not accurate isn't fair either. So, again, I just want to say, something that hasn't really been said is costs go up for everybody. Municipalities are not immune to costs going up. And if we do want to have continued services at the same level, I think Mr. Cavanis makes a good point. Do we need those vehicles? We have a fleet committee that meets extremely regularly to talk about the vehicles that we have and the needs for them moving forward. And they, to my knowledge, they have reallocated some over the last couple of years instead of purchasing new, so we could save money. But if we can't afford gas in them going forward, and again, this isn't a threat, this is a potential reality. if we can't afford gas, then what use are the cars? And then we're going to have, parks people that are walking to the parks instead of driving vehicles. We might not be taking fire trucks out to every single medical call because we don't have the gas for them. Again, not a threat. It's a reality because city costs increase as well.
Any other comments? Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
No.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Replacement of slide gates for Walnut Station and the diffuser stations for water pollution control facility. Recommendation: approve the replacement of the 2 slide gates for the Walnut Station and the diffuser stations totaling $20,888.
Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Larry, I believe you're going to speak on this.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. These gates are used to redirect effluent flow from JBS and the Water Pollution Control Facility when performing maintenance on our diffuser in the Des Moines River. The aluminum slide gates are no longer working properly and will not close when needed. They will be replaced with stainless steel slide gates. The Walnut gate is quoted at $11,113, and the diffuser gate is quoted at $9,775. These are two vendors. 2 vendors were contacted. Only 1 quote was returned. And over the last month, we have contacted multiple times and tried to get a second quote. There is a regular budgeted item at $75,000 for maintenance and replacement of these types of equipment that's needed at the Water Pollution Control, and these funds will be taken out of that balance.
Council have any questions for Larry?
I do. Okay, Larry, so I'm reading the contract and I talked with you about this earlier and I think it's good to know. So I read through the contract and I see that there's different things like this doesn't include this in the cost, different aspects to that. Can you speak a little bit more to that? So for the public and the rest of the council?
A lot of times when we do something that's a direct equipment replacement, we will seek direct quotes from the vendors. Because of lead time, and it varies depending on the time of year and what you order, the size, if they have to tool back up to make the specific gate. We buy the equipment directly. We'll have it on site, and then we will go out and contract through a small contract to have a contractor install it. This way they don't have to order, track, maintain, and they also do not put a markup on the purchase price.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions for Larry? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Howden blower personnel to repair air blowers at Water Pollution Control Facility. Recommendation: approve Howden personnel to come on site to Water Pollution Control Facility to repair equipment for Water Pollution Control Facility totaling $8,734.
Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Larry, I believe you're going to cover this item also.
Yes. This is to contract to have Howden repair staff come to the Water Pollution Control Facility and repair the contents of blower number 2 termination enclosure. There are monitors and controls within the enclosure that the WPCF staff are unable to repair. They're simply not trained or have the specialized tooling. To ensure that we have adequate air supply for the plant, we are requesting that Howden staff perform the repairs and set the blower set points to where they need to be. One of the things that I want to point out, these blowers are one of the improvements we made, I think, about 11 years ago. They were energy efficient compared to the old centrifugal blowers. We've received about a 30% savings over time for both of these blowers. And the thing about a water pollution control plant, you have to have air 24/7, and you also have to have redundant systems. So it requires 2 separate blowers. We do need to get this up and operational in case we have problems with the other blower.
Council have any questions for Larry? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Resolution number 240, 2022, awarding the contract for asbestos abatement and demolition of the condemned property at 437 North Court to Dustin Smith of Environmental Edge and Dan Larson of Ottumwa, Iowa for the best bid, $1,500 for abatement and $18,000 for demolition. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 240, 2022.
Move the recommendation as presented.
Second.
Okay, Jake, I think you have the next several of these.
I do. Thanks, Mayor. Good evening, Council. The bids for this project were accepted until 2 p.m. on September 28, 2022. 2 asbestos bids and 2 demolition bids were received. Dan Larson and Environmental Edge submitted the best bids in the amount of $1,500 for asbestos and $1,800 for demolition. Staff recommends awarding them the contract.
Does council have any questions for Jake? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Hull,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Resolution number 241, 2022, awarding the contract for demolition of the condemned property at 201 North Holt to Dustin Smith of Environmental Edge and Dan Larson of Ottumwa, Iowa for the best bid, $7,900. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 241, 2022.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Jake.
All right. Once again, we accepted bids until 2 p.m. on September 28, 2022. 2 demolition bids were received. Dan Larson and Environmental Edge submitted the best bid for the amount of $7,900 for the demolition, and there was no asbestos in this property.
Any questions for Jake? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Hull,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Resolution number 242, 2022, awarding the contract for asbestos abatement and demolition of the condemned property at 306 West 6th Street to Dustin Smith of Environmental Edge and Dan Larson of Ottumwa, Iowa for the best bid, $4,775 for abatement and $12,000 for demolition. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 242, 2022.
Do we have a motion to
So
approve?
moved.
Second.
Okay, Jake.
All right. Bids for this project were also accepted until 2 p.m. on September 28. We received 2 asbestos bids and 2 demolitions bids. Dan Larson and Environmental Edge submitted the best bids in the amount of $4,775 for asbestos and $12,000 for demolition. The staff recommends awarding them the contract.
Council have any questions for Jake?
I have one. So the asbestos in our package says 47 for Dan and then 41 for Weston. Is there a reason we didn't go with Weston for the asbestos?
So there's a spot on the contract that they can check if they're willing to do one or the other or just both.
Okay.
And both of these contractors did not check that box, so they were only interested in doing both. And therefore, his bid was best with the demolition included.
Okay. So they bid overall bid, not
That's correct.
separately.
Yep.
basically.
There is a box to make that an option, but they didn't
Okay.
accept that. So.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway,
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre,
Yes.
Councilmember Hull,
Yes.
Councilmember Pope,
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe.
Yes.
Resolution number 243, 2022, awarding the contract for asbestos abatement and demolition of the condemned property at 309 Marouge to Dustin Smith of Environmental Edge and Dan Larson of Ottumwa, Iowa for the best bid, $3,500 for abatement and $10,000 for demolition. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 243, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Jake.
All right. We accepted bids until I'm going to choke on this one. We accepted bids until 2 o'clock on September 28th, 2022. 2 asbestos bids and 2 demolition bids were received. Dan Larson and Environmental Edge submitted the best bids in the amount of $3,500 for asbestos and $10,000 for demolition. And staff recommends that we accept their bids.
Don't choke. We got a ways
I
to
know,
go
I got a
yet.
ways to go. I got to keep it.
Does council have any questions for Jake regarding this item?
No, take it easy on it.
If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 244, 2022, awarding the contract for asbestos abatement and demolition of the condemned property at 153 South Fellows to Weston McKee of Fairfield, Iowa, for the best bid, $12,300 for abatement and $19,000 for demolition. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 244, 2022.
Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Jake.
All right, we accepted bids until 2 o'clock on September 28th, and 2 bids and 2 demolition bids were received. Weston McKee submitted the best bids in the amount of $12,300 for asbestos and $19,000 for the demolition on this property. Staff recommends awarding him the contract.
Council have any questions for Jake regarding this item? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 245, 2022, awarding the contract for asbestos abatement and demolition of the condemned property at 157 South Iowa Avenue to Dustin Smith of Environmental Edge and Dan Larson of Ottumwa, Iowa for the best bid, $6,000 for abatement and $12,500 for demolition. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 245, 2022.
Move the recommendation is presented.
Second.
Okay, Jake.
All right, same day, same place, same time. We accepted bids until 2 p.m. on September 28th, 2022. 2 asbestos bids and 2 demolition bids were received for this property. Dan Larson and Environmental Edge submitted the best bids in the amount of $6,000 to abate the asbestos and $12,500 for the demolition. Staff recommends awarding them the contract.
Any other questions?
I have a few.
Okay.
Just for the public's benefit, when we're doing this and we're spending the money on this, where's that money coming from?
So this is a budgeted item, so it's budgeted in the.
And maybe this is a better question for Phil. What bucket is this coming out of?
We do have a fund. There was a program we were working with in Legacy for demolition of properties. There was the shared cost with that. And then, like I said, we budget that. 153, I think, is the code that it's coming out of. Let me double check if I can find that quick. It is not out of the general fund, though. Typically, it's out of the building code enforcement there. That special revenue fund that was set up for these particular purposes.
Okay. And just for clarification, so everybody knows why we do this. This is a normal course of business for the city council. This is for public safety that we're doing this type of work, right? Getting rid of these that way we don't have squatters, we don't have fire risks, we don't have drug houses, things like that. Correct?
Yeah, these houses are properties that were placarded and condemned. No effort was given by the people that own the property, and it became dangerous for the neighborhoods. So the city has taken that upon ourselves to rid the blight from the neighborhood, so to speak, and to make it a better community.
Okay. I guess just to further the point of earlier tonight, we just spent $101,475 to ensure public safety and to hopefully at some point promote economic development in the community. Thank you.
Yeah, one other piece of that too is sometimes there's addition through subtraction. And so by taking derelict properties off of the property tax roll can actually increase the property values of those around it. So there is that piece of economic development from that simple reduction as well.
Understood.
It's a win-win. Any other questions for Jake? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 246, 2022, approving change order number 4 for the Ottumwa Park Campground Shower House and Office Project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 246, 2022.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Gene Ratchie, our Parks Director, I believe is going to speak to this.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Change order number 4 will involve moving 3 toilet rough-in hookups due to the size of the interior concrete blocks being changed. The original contract amount with RG Construction was $573,672. Change order number 1 was for $595, which increased the contract amount to $574,467. Change order number 2 was for $15,250, which increased the contract amount to $589,717. Change order number 3 was for $3,425, which increased the contract amount to $593,142. Change order number 4 is for $1,700, which increases the contract amount to $594,842. The architect's original cost estimate for this project was $616,000.
So even with these 4 change orders, the project is still under budget.
Yes, yes, it is. And according to the architect, this should be the last change order.
Does council have any questions for Gene?
Just one quick one, Gene. How did the architects miss this one? That seems like something that would be easy for them to catch in the design of those 3 spots.
Well, he based his design on another project that he did in Cedar Rapids, which was actually a restroom. But after he talked to the contractor, they decided to go with 8-inch concrete blocks, even though they weren't specified. So really the city's getting a bargain with the bigger blocks that they aren't charging us for. But because they're using bigger blocks in order to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act, these 3 toilet hookups have to be adjusted.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification.
Do you know the reasoning in changing the size of the blocks? Like, why did they go from the original to the 8-inch blocks?
Basically to make the interior walls of the shower house stronger.
Okay, so it's the exterior blocks that's being changed.
Interior blocks.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Gene? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 247, 2022, approving change order number 1 and accepting the work as final and complete and approving the final pay request for the 2022 street patch repair program. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 247, 2022.
Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
Moved.
Second.
Okay, Larry?
Thank you again. This project was a unit price contract for replacement of PVC panels on selected streets. Work consisted of panel removal, installation of epoxy-coated dowels, and placement of new PCC. Targeted areas addressed panel failures and faulting settlement issues. Targeted quantity was 1,500 cubic yards. Change order 1 increases the contract amount by $3,660. The streets are listed that we worked on. The contractor has completed the work according to the plan specifications, and this will release all retainage and authorize final payment. The new contract sum is $149,410, and we had $150,000 budgeted.
Council have any questions for Larry? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 248, 2022, approving change order number 1 for the North Market Facade Improvements Project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 248, 2022.
Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
And Jake's back.
All right, thank you. The North Market Facade Project received a community development block grant for $250,000. The remainder of this project is funded by the existing Downtown Development Grant Program and the property owner. Change order 1 is a cost adjustment for the masonry at 105 and 107 North Market. The adjustment is $4,200, which is 100% within the projected contingency and does not change the original contract sum of $277,777 $777.
Council have any questions for Jake?
So I just have one quick one. So this is within, I think in the contract, it talks about this, like you said, the contingency. And so and maybe this is a Phil question. So do these actually have to be approved by the council then if it's already kind of put in that contingency?
The change orders need to be approved.
Even though it's already in the contract that this is?
Because the original budget didn't include these change orders.
I think, from what I understand, is to make you guys aware of what's going on with the project as far as changes go. I'm not quite sure if it needs to be, but yeah, I was told to present it, so.
In our practice is to have change orders approved by council. So if the contract was originally approved, and a change order could be a price increase, could be a price decrease even. Sometimes it's something like adding days because of inclement weather, whatever it might be. There is a change in the original contract that was approved by council. Last meeting, for example, we had the one with pushing out the date for closing. That was a simple thing, but it is a change to what you had all approved and what the public was aware you had approved. That's why at least our practice has been for transparency's sake, to bring these forward.
No, and I appreciate that. I was just seeking clarification.
Yeah, and that's why.
Any other questions for Jake? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 249, 2022, approving change order number 2 for the North Market Facade Improvements Project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 249, 2022.
Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Jake.
All right. Change order number 2 is an order substituting aluminum door jambs in place of wood jambs at the 105 to 107 North Market. The adjustment is $1,043.89, which is 100% within the project contingency and does not change the original contract sum of $277,777.
Council have any questions for Jake? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway? Yes. Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 250, 2022, approving change order number 3 for the North Market Facade Improvements Project. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 250, 2022.
Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So
moved. Get
Second.
that? Okay, Jake.
All right. Change order number 3 makes masonry cost adjustments at 114 and 118 North Market. The adjustment is $1,800, which is 100% within the projected contingency and does not change the original contracted sum of $277,777.
A lot of sevens.
This is actually change order number 9, correct?
I don't believe so. I believe it's change order number 3. I think the 9 is incorrect in both of those.
Okay. In the city's packet online, it says change order number 9.
Does council have any questions for Jake? Did everybody get the correction that was pointed out? Okay. Okay, if there's no questions for Jake, then Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Hull?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 251, 2022, releasing a request for proposals, RFP, for the purchase, renovation, and redevelopment of city-owned property located at 131 East Main Street, known as the First National Bank Building. Recommendation pass and adopt resolution number 251, 2022.
Do we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Jake.
All right. The First National Bank at 131 East Main was acquired by the city after it was found to be abandoned by the previous owner. The property is a critical part of the Main Street District and is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The proposed request for proposal, RFP, would invite developers to to propose projects for purchasing the rehabilitation of this historic resource. Proposals would be reviewed by staff, the Historic Preservation Commission, and the Main Street Ottumwa.
Does council have any questions for Jake?
No questions. I just like to make a statement that I am glad to see that these three entities will work together to review those proposals. I think that's some valuable feedback we'll get back from all three of those.
And they've already put a lot of time and effort into this property, so it's really nice.
Any other comments or questions for Jake?
And just a reminder that this was actually listed as one of the, what was it, the most hazard, or I can't remember the name of it, but basically it was most endangered property on the historic registry. So to see us finally put this up and get somebody hopefully that'll refab it would be great.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no other comments or questions for Jake. Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Holt?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Resolution number 252, 2022, releasing a request for proposals, RFP, for the purchase, renovation, and redevelopment of city-owned property located at 513 North Court, known as the W.R. Dom House. Recommendation: pass and adopt resolution number 252, 2022.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
One more time, Jake.
All right. The property at 513 North Court was acquired by the city after it was found to be abandoned by the previous owner. The property contributes to the Court Hill District. The proposed request for proposal, RFP, would invite developers to propose projects for purchasing and rehabilitating this historic resource. Proposals would be reviewed by staff, by the Historic Preservation Commission.
Council have any questions for Jake regarding this project? If not, Chris will take the roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Holt?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
This is a point in our city council meeting where I would ask if there's anyone here tonight that would like to address anything that's not part of our approved agenda. And since there's nobody out there, I still felt I needed to ask just to cover the bases. So I guess there isn't any. The next item is any type of communication. I don't have any specific communications I want to communicate tonight. Does the council have any communications that they want to bring up or talk about?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We are adjourned.
I have to
Thank
take
you,
roll. I have to
everybody.
take
You gotta take a
roll.
vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have to take roll. We have to take roll.
Councilmember Galloway?
Yes.
Councilmember McIntyre?
Yes.
Councilmember Holt?
Yes.
Councilmember Pope?
Yes.
Councilmember Rowe?
Yes.
Now we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.